Evening all. Right, I've not been on for a couple of days because I dropped my phone in water and I've had to take it in for drying out. So, and I film on my phone. Right, if you want to be entered into the draw for the Lightseers Tarot deck by Chris Ann, I need you to be subscribed and comment anything in the comments box and with a suggestion for a name for this seahorse, which is going to be raffled fairly soon for Bluebellwood Children's Home, Children's Hospice even. Right. This reading. Is Boris Johnson going to revive the Conservative Party? Right, apparently Boris Johnson is going to make a comeback, and I don't know how true it is. I've been told that Boris Johnson is looking at making a comeback in the Conservative Party, and as a really good rival to Reform. Right. Rather than give my opinion, because people don't always like my opinion, and some people like my opinion, it might just come out during the course of this reading. So I'm not going to give my opinion right now. I'm just going to do a Wisdom of the Oracle. I'm going to flip a Wisdom of the Oracle card. And yes, I am reading the definition from the book because that's what you're supposed to do with Oracle cards. They've already been cleansed and Reiki'd and shuffled, but I'm just doing 2 more shuffles and then we'll get an Oracle card. Right. Let's see what we've got for starters. Boris Johnson. Is he going to revive the Conservative Party? Well, the Conservative Party's in proper deep shit a minute, isn't it? We've got number 4, higher power. Number 4. I think they might be banking on people having incredibly short memories, maybe. I don't know. But anyway. Higher power. Wrong page. Sometimes your work just flows through you. Ideas come rushing in, and inspiration bubbles up from a wellspring you didn't even know you could access. When you enter agreements, begin projects, and negotiate deals with spirit as your partner, you will always succeed. Let your higher power lead. The synchronicities and intuitive nudges you feel will help you see which way you are being pointed, giving you confidence to move forward in the right direction. Don't forget to give credit where it's due. You wouldn't be a success without Spirit's guidance. Here. Humility will serve you well when this symbol appears. Right, so a bit of humility for Boris Johnson then, maybe. Right. So is Boris Johnson making a comeback? And if so, is he going to be able to revive the Conservative Party into a credible rival of Reform? The thing is, a lot of people absolutely adored Boris because they liked the bumblingness and he was very articulate in lots of ways. But if you look beneath the surface of what Boris Johnson actually achieved, and the people he had around him, and the things that happened under his watch, I'm not so sure Boris can make a comeback. I mean, he loses so many of his credibility points, just in my view, just by having Twat Hancock in his cabinet. But my opinion, let's have a look. Boris Johnson. Right, so it looks like right now at the moment he seems to be sort of working very hard at something. I don't know what necessarily, possibly his image. The Pentacles is about the material world. It can also be about your image, your material image in this earth realm, if you like. He's clearly working very hard on it looks like to me there's a particular pentacle this apprentice is working on, or this person, master, if you like, master craftsman, is working on. And it makes me wonder whether there is some whether there really is some kind of ploy to get Johnson back in as a front man, because Kemi she said all the right things and she seemed to be really, really strong, but her track record's pretty shite as well. If you look at her track record and what she's voted for and what she didn't vote for when she was in cabinet and on the backbenches before she became the leader. I mean, really, there isn't a fag paper between any of them, and Kemi Bader, you'd think, would be really good at the dispatch box when she's facing Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's questions, and she's pretty shit. She seems very timid in his wake. So, I mean, and that's not a good accolade, really, is it, for somebody as pathetic as Keir Starmer to be able to run rings round somebody? You'd think Kemi Baden would have her act together, but she don't. But this is Boris working on something. He's finishing some sort of project. I wonder if he's polishing his image. He's also friendly with Donald Trump. I think he went to the inauguration. You'll let me know if he didn't in the comments. I'm sure you will. So he seems to be on a mission to rescue his image. Right. So he's working on something. And then we've got the Hermit. You can't make this up. He's working on something. And this is Starmer. So he's working on something in order to sort of have a face off with Starmer. There seems to be Starmer seems to be in the next few weeks and months seems to be going to be coming up against a lot of face offs. But in this one, Starmer is still coming across as the wise one, where this is naive, still finishing the project. He's not the finished. But Johnson isn't the finished product. Starmer's retreated into his wise, sage type thing. So it seems like a bit of a face off. And then we've got the Six of Wands, which is victory. So it seems as though Boris very much so is making a comeback to people, more people than we think, actually being happy about that, regardless of his track record of the lockdowns and the scaremongering over COVID and the 6 feet apart and people not being able to visit loved ones, and then the risk, the sort of Partygate issue. Not that Starmer's without fault, because he was also doing it, and there's photographic evidence to prove that, but he got away with it. But he had Sue Gray in his corner, didn't he? So, and then we've got the Four of Cups. So it feels like Johnson is going to resurrect his image, but it's not getting him what he wants, because there's still quite a lot of resistance. It feels like Boris is working very hard on his image, but he doesn't quite cut the mustard, I would say. But is this going to be a credible opposition? It's not. That's not it for Johnson. He's not coming back. He's not making a comeback. We've got Page of Wands again. We get this all the time. I think Johnson's going in a different direction. I'm seeing Johnson going to America. This new resurrection of this resurrection of his leadership in the Conservative Party doesn't quite cut the mustard, and he still is seen as like the stupid playground. He's a bit of a clown, bumbling Boris and all that. There's going to be an end to all that. I don't think Boris is coming back. I think they're just toying with the idea of having him back because he was more popular than anybody that came after him. And then we've got the Knight of Wands. So we've got Starmer retreating into his inner world, if you like, in a world of his own, basically. This seems to me like Boris is going to receive quite a lot of accolades, but not at home. I'm seeing him going to America. I don't know why America. It feels like he's going to be much better received in America because Americans love that that posh English boy type, public school boy antics. But in England, no, not here. So he's got some sort of offer that's going to take him abroad, and I'm seeing America in this. And he might even work quite closely with Trump on some things. And we've got the Knight of Cups again. We always get the Knight of Cups, the Page of Wands. We're always getting that, and we're always getting the Hermit. Things aren't changing very quickly because the energies are staying pretty much stagnant. We've got the Knight of Cups. Yeah, it's telling me the same thing. It's like this offer here. This offer here is this offer here. I think Johnson wants to be back in the forefront in British politics, but it's just not going to happen. I think he's going to be offered something. I really do think he's going to be offered jobs or whatever in America. Doesn't necessarily want that, but he will take the offer because the Americans love him. I think that's what that's all about. I'm feeling with these cards that this isn't. It's like, although Johnson would very much like to be back in the front and centre of British politics, he also doesn't want to be at the same time. I think he really doesn't at the same time because there's too much encroachment on his private life, and that's dodgy as hell anyway, just like Starmer's. And then we've got the Four of Swords. So I think he's worked quite hard at his image. It's sort of not going to happen. Is not going to be like the saving grace for the Tory party. It's not going to happen. Johnson is going to take a step back. He's going to be a much quieter person. It seems to me in the UK. Can't see, I'm just these cards aren't telling me that Boris is coming back. Yeah, and we've got that again, the Tower. The calm before the storm. Something big is on its way. Something absolutely huge is on its way. Really huge. And I don't think it's connected to Boris Johnson. I don't. I think it's connected to British politics. But I don't think it's directly connected to Boris Johnson. I really don't. I think something massive is on its way. There's going to be a huge surprise, a huge shock. But it feels like there's going to be a bit of a lull. Like every day, there's so much news being fired at us, either from the Middle East or Eastern Europe or at home, or new laws being passed, and privacy being encroached upon, and it just gets worse day in, day out. And then there's what anybody's saying about Keir Starmer in America is, and then there's all these court cases of all these child predators that are walking free because they might get hurt if they get deported back to their own countries. And there's just so much news. There's too much news, and it's being fire. It's like a quick fire round. Like we're being hit from all sides, and then all of a sudden we're going to have quite a quiet news week. We're going to have a quiet news week, and then bam, the shit's going to hit the fan. Something massive is on its way. Something massive is on its way. It really, really is. And I think this massive thing that's on its way is what's going to be sending people like Boris Johnson to America. And then we've got the Six of Pentacles, which is charity. If you can see, we've got the scales of justice, evening up the score. You've got this rich man giving to the poor. Charity. And then the King of Cups in reverse. When we said charity begins at home, the King of Cups is very much the homebody, the father of, a very warm father, someone who likes to be at home with his children and his wife. Charity begins at home. Well, when the king is upside down, charity is not beginning at home. Oh, shock, surprise, I hear you say. Something massive, some information, something huge. It's going to be very quiet for a while. And then this shocking thing comes out, and there's no getting away from it. And the moral of this story is charity does not begin at home. And although we already know that charity is not beginning at home right now in the UK, I think this is information. This is statistics. This is information that's going to come out, that's going to shock we already know, but we don't know to what extent. And I think it's to the extent, what extent, that we're actually going to find out. And that, my friends, is why Boris Johnson is off on his jollies, because they like him there. We're not going to, and he's going to have to retreat. And it's not just Boris Johnson, it's several of them. Charity does not begin at home. And this information that comes out is going to be shocking. We already know it's bad. We don't realise how bad it is until the statistics start coming out. So, one last one. Is Johnson going to rescue the Conservative Party? He's going to put down his heavy burden. Tens are endings. The Ten of Wands is about carrying a heavy burden and being able to put it down at long last. Because once you put down that heavy burden, you can start again. Heavy burden. Yeah. And he's a blondie and all. Boris Johnson walks like he's stooped over a bit as well, doesn't he? He's carrying a very heavy burden. But he's going to be unburdened. What is it that Kamala Harris used to say? Unburden ourselves. What is it? From what has been, or something crap like that. He's going to unburden himself from what has been. Unburdened by what has been. And then what? And it looks to me as though he's going to make some sort of, I'm saying announcement, which is going to be unusually, what's the word? He's going to make some sort of announcement or speech that's going to be unusually altruistic. It feels like he's going to speak as though he had nothing to do with what's gone on in the past. That it all happened around him, and he was too busy, and he left these people up to he left his people to do the work that's going to shock us. He's basically just going to pretend he had nothing to do with it. He's basically going to do what a child does. It weren't me, I didn't do it. It were him. And that's what he's going to do. The truth of the matter is they're all at fault. And not just the people who were in power at the time, the people who supported it, the people who voted for a lot of the shit that we had to put up with at the time, and are still putting up with the shit because of those policies, because of the people voting. It's got to the point where charity does not begin at home, and hasn't done for some time. We are going to find out to what extent very soon. It's going to be absolutely shocking. Right, that's your reading. I'm off, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow if this recording has done its thing. If it's not done its thing, then you might have to wait a few weeks till I can afford a new phone. Anyway, I'm going, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Ta-ra.